And good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to a very exciting, very joyous, doesn't it feel good edition of Hoosier Morning After. This is Hoosier Morning After Michigan State. Yesterday afternoon, your Indiana Hoosiers go on to defeat Michigan State 82-69, improving their record to 13-6 on the season, 4-4, a perfect 500 right now in the Big Ten. Kind of 7 minutes left in the first half. IU was down by 9, kind of a rough start to the game, and then finished the first half. Kind of got it back together a little bit, finishing the half up by 5. And then again in the start of the second half, the first 5 minutes were a little rough for IU. Michigan went on a run on a bad IU start, but IU started to settle things down, and by the 13-minute mark, just kind of really took over the game until the end of the game. Just such a big win for IU. Keeps the momentum going. IU continues to be kind of what we expected this team to be going into this year. Obviously, we've had to adjust with having some key players out and everything, but just what we hope to see with this team and what they can be and should be moving forward. Not only winning against good teams, but in these past couple of times, winning by double digits. I mean, handling winning these games, putting them in good situations where, at least towards the end, we should be feeling good and relaxed. But as we know, as we're Indiana fans, we still don't fully relax, although I felt a lot better in the last closing minutes of this game than I did in the Illinois game. But that effort continues to be really high for this team, which was evident just by the plays that this team did in the second half, that fight and that need. And it's that one play by Miller Kopp getting on the floor, diving for that loose ball, and then not quite securing it, and Malik there ready to dive himself. Just very exciting to see this team click with the players we have, and then also to see Race get back out there again. And we'll kind of talk about maybe his struggle, but at least good to see him get out there as well. So wonderful situation, wonderful point for IU to be in this season, and excited to have you here and talk with it today. I'm your host, Chad Schwartzkopf. With me is Martha, the mop lady. Martha, your thoughts on the game yesterday?
Yeah, really exciting, right? I think that to your point, you know, we had that big win at Illinois, and you always know what you're going to face against a Tom Izzo coach team, and you know, we're starting to feel good about kind of where things are trending after the Illinois game, and I think this was a big game to really kind of validate where we're kind of heading moving forward. I think there were still some question marks with the roller coaster of a season it's been, but I think my feeling going into the game was if we could come out and put a good performance together, that it really gets us past that lull that we had when everybody, you know, got injured, when Race and X both went down, and we went through that stretch. And so I was really curious to see how we'd come out. And, you know, we did deal with some adversity. When you look at, I mean, just a quick glance at the box score, and, you know, if you would look at Hood-Schifino's line, and that's the only line you looked at, be a lot of question marks about how this game went. But other guys stepped
for a second,
up.
Martha, might cut out on us there.
Still here? Can you hear me?
Oh, there, I got you.
All right. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Monday morning technical difficulties. But I was just mentioning, I mean, if you look at, you know, if somebody showed you the box score and you looked at Jalen Hood-Schifino's line, you'd have all sorts of concerns. And, you know, other guys stepped up at the right moment. There were moments of adversity in this game. There were moments of challenge. And, you know, we just like we have the last couple of games, you know, punched right back. And it was good to see. It's good to see, because you look at the schedule, we've got some opportunities here to win some ball games and put ourselves right back into the conversation. So a really overall, really exciting performance.
Yes. And just amazing to see the guys that are clicking at the right times and everything. And as we kind of start to dive and get into the play of different guys, get our big guy out of the way. But Trace Jackson Davis, it's weird to say the word struggle with him after you see his stat line in this game, but he definitely struggled at the start of this game, missing a few of the bunnies at the beginning, a few of the layups and everything, but ends still with a double-double, I believe his 40th or so of his career, 31 points, 10 for 20 from the field, great from the free throw line. He got there a lot, making 11 of his 13, and finishing with 15 rebounds, but it's the assists that he continues to do as well. And I think someone had put out a stat for him that he is fifth in the Big Ten in assist ratio. So it's amazing to have a big guy. Not only that, that's amongst all players, not just guards, but to have a big guy doing what he does for himself, but also sharing the ball. What did you think of Trace's game last night?
I was listening to this morning, got up early and I was watching the Big Ten, the recap show with Mike DeCourcy and Raphael Davis, and they were they were just talking about the same thing I just mentioned, just the difference in the way that Indiana looks with essentially the same personnel. The way they looked, against Penn State and Northwestern, and then the way they've looked, here the last three games, and what's really changed. And they were a bit perplexed. And DeCourcy made the comment that TJD's sit down meeting, and what was his health like before, but and he used the word brick wall on what the teams look like defensive. And I think that's where it's all started. But when you look at TJD, he just looks like a different beast. He looks like the TJD we were used to early in the season. We had that North Carolina performance, and then things just kind of changed a little bit going into a couple of those holiday games. He sat out a couple, and it just, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And when you see a guy that's, sitting, then playing, then sitting, it leads to the question on what's going on from a health perspective. And it was really easy to get frustrated in the moment when we went through that stretch when those guys got hurt, and we're conditioned to kind of do so. I'll defend us a little bit because, historically, the last handful of seasons when things go south during the season, they really go south. So we're conditioned to that a little bit, but I think they found some things. I think TJD's gotten healthy. I think that, he's made the decision, and I think it speaks a little bit to the sit down meeting he had. He's made the decision that this isn't how he's going to go out. And, he's got the guys playing well. I think he stepped up as a leader. And you look at some of the, just what you mentioned, some of the records he's breaking and the way, and it's even missing some time, right? I mean, he's missed 3-4 games this year. So you look at what he's able to do there, and then these back-to-back 30-point performances. I'm not sure, who our last guy to have back-to-back 30 games. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm sure it wasn't probably in more recent history than I know, but just, man, I think that, at a certain point, we're going to need to take a step back and realize just how solid of a player he's been. And I think it gets a little bit understated because of the lack of postseason success that he's had with his tenure. But I think there'll come a point in time where we take a step back and realize how special he's been.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's also what comes to mind on his play now compared to what we've seen in the past and past years as well. He's a man that's playing fearless. And not to say that there technically was fear or he was scared at any point. That's not what I mean by that. It's just that we've seen him struggle before when he goes against other big men or other physical big men, or in case in point, the Illinois game, such a large down low guy that was really banging against him. He would shy away from that, and you'd see him not being as aggressive and everything. And now he just looks like a fearless guy. He's just, and then that speaks as well to his level of confidence. And even in the post game, he talks about there's not anyone in this league that can guard me. I love that stink. I love that confidence, that arrogance and everything, because that feeds for him, and that feeds to that fearlessness and what he's able to do and what shots he gets and how he's able to pass out. I mean, just the beautiful play by that, how that trickles around to the other team, to the rest of the team, has also just been amazing. Now, his complement in this game, the 4 position, kind of, let's spend some time maybe talking about a few of those guys, because it was kind of a little more interesting in this game where we obviously had Race coming back, and we saw Race get in there for a few minutes. Wasn't really able to do too much, but that's not shocking. He's been out and everything, and you don't want to count on him right away when he's coming back. And this is a good precursor as well for once we do get X back as well, that we've got to stem our expectations as to what we're going to see from them from the get-go when they get in there again. So good to see him get a few minutes. Good to see be able to pepper him in there, but not depend on him. So that was good to see as well. And then just speaking on the others, and I'll kind of kick it to you and we can go back and forth on this. Malik, I thought, was kind of the brighter spot in the 4 position today. Had a good game, stepping up. Kind of Jordan was struggling, and he kind of plays his best when he kind of slows down. He only had 1 turnover in this game. He did end up fouling out in this game, which was a little bit of a bummer, but that's, again, not surprising to see because he's going against Hauser. They're one of their best players and a veteran that can kind of get a young guy into bad positions and bait them into fouling when they do. But his 1 turnover was just from speeding up his game a little bit like that. Jordan as well. I thought he did really good on D against Hauser. Izzo's game plan was obviously to go at that 4 position and everything like that. And I'm honestly not surprised that tech happened between the two of them, because I was kind of watching the two of them play off the ball even before we got in that situation. And Hauser, again, that's the veteran thing, and I can't blame him too much because he's playing the mind games against it, and Jordan kind of bought into it. But I noticed earlier on in the game, Hauser came down on offense. Jordan was in position kind of about the free throw line, and not needing to because the ball's not anywhere near it, Hauser bumps into Jordan and everything like that, knocks Jordan back a little bit. Refs missed that. That could have been a call and everything, but those are those little things he's trying to play and get into his head. But your kind of thoughts on the 4 position and those guys, how they played?
Yeah, I think nail on the head by you. I think Malik, and I look at the last couple of games, he's really kind of found his we went through those struggles, right? He came out of the gate so hot this season,
And we set our expectations too high.
Yeah, we did. I think we did. And the Big Ten, obviously, for a freshman, especially a freshman with size, is can be a different beast. And when he came out of the gates as hot as he did, I think he was our 2nd leading scorer for a while, and 1st or 2nd in field goal percentage. And it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he was doing something positive, right? So I think that for him to start like that and then go through the struggles that he did, to see him finally kind of find his role a little bit, and he was really dealing with some struggles early on in the Big Ten season in terms of coming in and getting in foul trouble, and could really kind of see the frustration on his face a little bit, right? But I think he's now come in, found some confidence, found his role, found a little bit of an identity, and coming in, and it's really showing. He's giving us valuable minutes. He's scoring the basketball when he has opportunities. And a lot like we talked about with Jordan in terms of finding his success, he's really letting the game come to him, right? He's not trying to force anything. He's taking advantage of the opportunities he gets. And that's massive, right? Especially as we start to get, and to your point, it's going to take race a little bit of time. Anytime you deal with a leg injury and the amount of time you have to stay off your leg, you're going to lose quite a bit. I mean, you got to get back into shape. You've got to get that. I mean, you got to get back, you got to gain some confidence back with that leg. So it's going to be huge for us to continue to get this Malik in terms of depth and moving forward. But it's really good to see him kind of find his identity and role.
Yeah. And then switching out to our guards, Jalen Hood-Schifino had a bit of a struggle game for him. Had troubles getting going. Felt like he might have been a little banged up and everything. Came out of the game, and then the ball got handed off to the other guards, which we'll talk about next. But Jalen again struggled. I think he kind of orchestrated a few things that were good in this game. Ended with 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 fouls. 1 for 6 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Just one of the few guys that was actually in the plus minus and the negative for IU. Just had a tough time finding his rhythm in this game, but it was nice that we didn't rely on them. What did you see out of Jalen, and what was maybe his struggle to you?
Yeah, I just it's one of those games where, I mean, to your point, and a little bit different with Jalen because we've seen the solid play at a much more consistent level, even in the Big Ten. It's become kind of the
lost you for a second again.
You're still here?
Martha's internet may also be on a 2-hour delay. Had a little bit of weather up there. Oh,
can you hear me?
Yep, got you back there.
All right, man, you might be right. We got a little bit of snow, and all of a sudden it's chaos on my end. So sorry about that. But then let me know if I break up again. But it's just like Malik with Jalen, and I was starting to say even a little bit more so with Jalen because he's been at a high level much more consistently, that it's become our expectation. So when he struggles, it becomes rather significant. I think it was just a freshman with a rough game, and I think, and I was speaking to a friend last night about the game, and he made the point that we were able to extend the lead in the second half to 15 with Jalen on the bench, which I think is massive. It's huge, and that's not to underscore anything that Jalen gives us, because he's going to be massive for us moving forward, obviously. But I think it just continues to speak to these guys being willing, to take on this challenge, and where I don't know that we would have been able to do that a couple weeks ago. So whatever's clicked for us, I think it shined with his absence. So I don't think there's anything that I can point to with Jalen and what went wrong. You heard Tom Izzo speak after the game that the guys that did step up for us were a really big surprise to him. So I think his focus were probably on, obviously he wasn't able to do a whole lot with Trace, but his focus was on Trace and guys like Jalen, but other guys stepped up, and I think that's massive for us. So, hats off to those guys.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise to Indiana fans as well, but a welcome surprise, I should say. One that we expected to happen at some point, and as you said, we've kind of leaned on Jalen so much recently to be the Trace Jackson Davis and the Jalen Hood-Schifino show, and then who is going to be that third person to step up. And it's great to see when Jalen has that trouble that we can have other guys step up. And those guys that did were Trey and Tamar Bates. Trey kind of took over a lot of the ball handling abilities when Jalen was out, especially in that stretch that you talked about. And then Bates as well, take care of the ball as well. And just to see those two go 8 for 9 from 3 combined was amazing. 34 points combined from them. And then just some wonderful moments out of them throughout the game. For me, that if those remember the advertising, the bitter beer face kind of moment when you kind of look this, or the stanky face look after a play that happens, it's just so nasty and everything. Was that point in the second half when Tamar was trying to feed it down to Trace, and his defender blocks it up in the air, and Tamar grabs it, and it's just like, you know what, F you. And just hits the long 3 right in his face. That's just, I love that. And that's what Tamar brings to this team, is that confidence, that swagger. And great to see him finally hitting on all cylinders, because I know we've all been kind of looking for it and expecting it at some point to pop in this season. And it popped yesterday. And hopefully he can continue to build on that from here. What is your thoughts on those two guys and obviously our second brightest spot in this game?
Oh, 100%. I mean, somebody tells you you're going to get eight combined 3-pointers from Trey and Tamar, you're feeling really, really good about the way the game goes. So, as bad as we may have felt by looking at Jalen's line, you look at those two guys and you're wondering if we scored 100 points. But to get that type of performance from those guys, I mean, you look at Trey Galloway's line, 5 for 8 from the field, 3 of 3 from the 3-point line, and 4 of 4 from the free throw line. That's huge. And he's been kind of a steady force for us, whether it's coming in and helping us right the ship when things are going bad, or filling in the starting lineup when things are when we've got some injuries. He's been the guy that's kind of righted the ship for us, and it always hasn't been at the offensive end. He's whether it's a disruptor on the defensive end, whether it's coming in and helping us gain some confidence, he's been able to right the ship. But when he gives us that on the offensive end, I think we become incredibly dangerous, and he's fully capable. And we've talked a lot about Tamar being the guy that, we kind of need to step up. And I saw your comments on Twitter. It felt like the guys at Assembly Caller, Jared, was going to keep selecting Tamar as his breakout player until he actually breaks out. I mean, it was kind of the easy choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it just, and we've talked a lot about this. For me, it just becomes this can't be the outlier, right? For Tamar, if he's going to become the player we think he can become, this kind of has to be the Tamar that we see regularly, right? And I'm not trying to downplay anything he gave us yesterday. It was massive. It was huge. But for me, this is just the kind of Tamar, the kind of play we can get from Tamar regularly. He's got that skill set. He's that good. And I'm just hopeful.
To cut out there again.
Man, you'd think I'd have dial up. You
Gotcha.
think I'd have dial up here in Northeast Indiana or something. My goodness. I promise I don't. I don't know what it is. It's case the Mondays, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think that, hopefully this, just like I mentioned, this isn't the outlier. He's got the skill set to give us this performance regularly. And it's going to make us all the difference if he can find that for us moving forward and just give us this type of performance on a more regular basis. So hopefully this helps it click for him.
Yes, and these two players hitting and nailing on all cylinders like this in this game, just also and not to get too ahead of things and not looking past this year, but when you do look past this year, those two are going to have to be big contributors on this IU team next year, and to know that they can be like this is just great, because I wholeheartedly believe Trey's going to take a lot of the ball handling next year, and Tamar's going to be right there at the two starting with him, and knowing that they can put up games like this together is just fantastic to see. Moving on to away from the players and just to talk a little bit about the coaches. Looking back to this kind of losing streak that we had a week ago, and where our heads were and where our minds were, and where a lot of Twitter space was a lot of criticism on the coaching staff, and rightfully so. They are not immune to criticism, but the coaches appear to be better now, making adjustments where it's been needed, running things for guys a lot more that are getting hot. And for me, one tell of how Coach Woodson has improved in game situation compared to when it was in the losing streak was when he kind of stuck with Trey Galloway and Tamar Bates and kept Jalen Hood-Schifino on the bench. That's not a move I think he would have made during that kind of stint that we had earlier, that where he was leaning on Jalen Hood-Schifino a lot more. And even if Jalen wasn't doing well, he would have leaned on him a lot more. But great to see those adjustments out of the coaching staff and how they're doing a lot better. Your thoughts on the coaches?
Yeah, I think you've got to give credit where credit is due. And I was as critical as any. I mean, there were a couple games there, especially you look back at Penn State, where we just looked lost defensively. And almost to a point where we had no interest in playing any sort of defense. And to see the complete 180 that we've done since that time, I mean, the guys on the Big Ten show hit the nail on the head. That this defense has just become kind of a wall, right? They're not really giving opponents much of a shot, and even when it does break down a little bit, you saw Michigan State, I think, take a 2-point lead early in the second half and got it together and refocused and punched right back. So, and it's not only the ability to step up defensively, but the ability to absorb a punch. And then you go back to Illinois, and everybody thought it. If you don't admit it, you're lying. But everybody thought when we had that lead at halftime, it's like, oh no, how is what's going to happen in the second half? I mean, we're just again conditioned to do so. But credit to the staff and the players for not allowing that type of mindset to enter their heads. So the 180 they've done, you've got to tip your hat to the coaching staff. That much like Trace had to sit down with the players, it makes you wonder if the coaching staff got together and said, what do we need to do differently? We're not inside that room, so we don't know. But whatever conversation, whatever they've done, it's working. So credit to them. I'll be the first to eat crow when things go positively. I'll gladly eat all of it, because I was wondering where this season was headed. But I'll gladly accept the way we've turned things around, and I'm right back on the bandwagon. So hats off to the staff and the players for getting this thing together.
Yes, and the numbers, lots of good numbers to look at in this game. Obviously, the best numbers that you like to see and would make last year's fans or versions of ourselves just so excited to hear that it's been this. But 60% from three, that's 9 for 15 for the whole team. Just fantastic to see that number. And the free throws, 87.5%, 21 for 23. The only missed free throws are 2 from Trace Jackson Davis and 1 from CJ Gunn. So amazing to see that. And honestly, a number that you would normally think is kind of a bad one, but the way we've been playing effort-wise and everything, I don't mind this. There are 21 fouls for IU, 2 guys fouling out, Malik and Jordan. Again, I don't mind that. Playing physical and everything, when you kind of glance back at the Penn State game and how we wanted the team to be more intense and foul and just kind of knock them off their game. I don't mind seeing a high foul volume. Obviously, you don't want it to be in the way that allows the other team to get back in on free throws, but don't mind a little bit of foul trouble for one or two players in the game. What are some numbers that you saw in this one?
Well, yeah, I think that when you think about some of our frustration, over the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of it's been centered, especially on the offensive end, around our ability to make free throws and our ability to shoot the 3-pointer consistently. So those are you touched on them, but those are the obvious two, that if we can shoot from 60% from three and near 90% from the free throw line, we're going to be really, really successful, combined with our defensive effort. And just like you, I'm fine with those fouls. Again, I don't want to, I didn't get a chance to join you after the Illinois game, and I don't want to spend too much time on that, but the ability for us to have that type of success while losing the foul battle as significant as we did, I mean, I think it speaks into that's kind of our style of play. We're going to be physical, and there's going to be times when we're going to get a lot of fouls called on us. But that's not always, to your point, that's not always a bad thing. That just means that we're very likely playing, our style of defense. We're up in your face. We're causing chaos. We're causing havoc. That doesn't mean we're hacks. It just means we play a physical brand of basketball, all the while still being able to have a lot of success on the offensive end. It's not like we're going to Wisconsin you to death and just, muddy up everything and play what I think is kind of just a boring style of basketball. But, I think that I think it's a good combination, a good mix of when you combined our free throw shooting, our 3-point shooting with the fouls, that were called on us. It's certainly got to peel it back a little bit, but it certainly bodes to some of our success that we're playing our style of basketball.
Yep. And someone else tweeted out this morning, and I'm grabbing that stat from them. Another stat that would make you very excited if you were told this last year or even over the summer about for this player. But Trey Galloway currently is sitting at 50% from 3-point on this year, making 14 of 28. That's just amazing and such a testament to what you heard, that he was working really hard in the offseason and was a player that was in the gym and really kind of tweaked his mechanics on his shot. And great to see that he's been able to keep up with those mechanics and just apply that and not fall back on bad mechanics, because he's shooting it well. And again, IU continues to do from the 3-point line what we need to do, and where it is good, where we don't have to necessarily draw up plays to only be getting 3-point looks, but how that complements having the all-star big man underneath that we do. And it showed in this game where we had a lot of post feeds from Trey and Tamar, and that kick out ability from Trace Jackson Davis. Any other stats that you see in this line before we kind of tighten up this game?
No, I think again, I think we've covered them all. I think, that the stat you just mentioned to me out of Trey, I don't think anybody saw. We saw, like you mentioned, a lot of the conversation about, Trey stepping up in the offseason and changing his shot a little bit. But when you just mentioned the stat you did in terms of his 3-point percentage and the improvement there, that's absolutely massive. Because, especially as we look at the last couple games, right? One guy we haven't mentioned a whole lot is Miller Kopp. I think he played something 36, 38 minutes, but he didn't give us a whole lot offensively. I think he played some really strong defense, but, when Miller's not knocking down threes, who's going to be that guy? And I think it's kind of become Trey a little bit. And that's significant because it's an area that we've really, really struggled. And when you look at the makeup of this team, I think it was the one question mark is who's going to be that guy that steps up out with his outside shot and consistently, right? We've seen moments, right, from Tamar and certainly Trey had some moments in the past, but I think his improved outside shot has been massive for us, especially in this stretch where we played really, really solid basketball. So like you, that one jumps out to me as well. And just again, we already spent the time talking about what we didn't get from Jalen, but just everybody else being able to, despite his stat line, step up and really even grow the lead with him on the bench. It wasn't so much tread water while he's out. It was, we're we're gonna punch back. We're gonna fight back. We're gonna finish this thing, and that was really, really encouraging to see. So I think we've got a lot of momentum. It's just continuing it coming out, and Minnesota is always a weird place to play. So let's get up there and get out with a win.
Yep. And I wouldn't be remiss to also mention a special congratulations to Leilani for winning the halftime baby race and everything. And if you get a chance, go on YouTube and watch the players talk at in the press conference. I hope everyone either has someone in their life or finds someone in your life that looks at you the way Leilani looks at Trey Galloway, because that was about the cutest thing. She couldn't keep her eyes off of Trey in the players' press conference time. So that was really fun to see. But again, overall, a game where the effort continues to be where we want it to be for this team. And I'm not saying they weren't necessarily trying before, but it's just on a different level and on a different click. And this is the standard that's been set for this team. And it has to stay strong on the defensive end. They have to stay locked in. They have to continue to do great things on the defensive end, because the offensive end is starting to click as well. And not to mention that we have a formulaic where we have to have this happen. The only thing that necessarily has to happen each game is Trace to, on the offensive side, take care of things and do the little things that he can do. Beyond that, we now have seen different weapons and different guys that can step up in different moments for this team. So we're sitting pretty good. So Hoosier Nation, we should be happy. We should be excited. We should be positive going. There could still be a hiccup. We could still have a hiccup game. Now, it's about not only that hiccup game, but how we respond past that game. That we need to remember that they can turn it around and we can get things better. Because remember how down we felt after that 3 game and how high we feel now. Because it's going to be a roller coaster. That's why we tune in. That's why we love college basketball. It's a fantastic sport to cheer on. It's something that gives you excitement, gives you all kinds of emotions. And I'm here for it every time. So exciting. So happy to be a Hoosier fan and everything. And thank you for being here with us, as always. This is going to do it for this edition of Hoosier Morning After. We'll be back again after the Minnesota game. Indiana plays Minnesota at Minnesota on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Very late game. But Martha and I will try to be up for you the next morning on Thursday morning with you there. Follow me on Twitter at General Chadwick. There you find information about when we're going to go live and everything. Follow Martha as well. Don't forget that Hoosier Ticket Project. If you can't go to those games, donate to those guys as well. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for producing the music you hear on the show. We'll be back again at the after the next show. Until then, guys, go out there, have a fantastic day. And as always, go Hoosiers.